And he's there with a 600 on, with a turbocharger on. We're gobsmacked. So we just told him to stick it. And they'd run without a team manager for a year. So I said, couldn't believe it. It's already leaking. Well, it wasn't leaking oil in the dyno. Well, it's leaking oil now. Send them the photographs. Send another one up.
Yeah.
So that was it. Every year off to the TT, being riding around there like lunatics with your mates, you know. Leach held the lap record on it at 108, and he went round at 111 in early morning practice.
It was our first on location podcast of last year. It had a few teething difficulties, but this year we're in his front room and it makes life so much easier. We didn't discuss World Superbikes last year, but this year we do, and we talk about his deep love for the Isle of Man TT races. That's Jack Valentine. This is Off Track, the motorcycle racing podcast.
Jack, welcome back to the show. Great to see you again.
Yeah,
Thanks
good to see you, Dave. Yeah.
It's been a year since we did that last one. How time's flown.
Certainly does, yeah.
It's been ridiculous. What have you been up to over the last 12 months?
Oh, I've played plenty of golf. I sort of filled a little bit of a void what I'm missing from racing, because I do miss racing. I do miss racing, and I think I said before, but when you've been at a certain level, I don't just want to be, you know, knocking around in a paddock for the sake of it, you know, because I like the outdoors, I like my golf and stuff, so yeah. Been winning a few comps in golf for a change.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're still winning then, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that never
well,
leaves you, does
still
it?
There. You know, if you've been involved with racing, or even any of the lads in racing will tell you that, whatever they do, whether it's going for a cycle ride or whatever, if they're always trying to beat whoever they're with, aren't they? And it's just sort of one of them things, isn't it?
It's like when they're out cycling, they're always half-wheeling somebody, aren't they? They're always trying to push that little bit more, bit more. And it's just you and I for this chat. Ben, he's busy getting ready to go out to Spain and do a couple of bits out there, ready to defend his Supersport Championship.
Yeah, good year he had.
He
really
did have a good year. Yeah, proud of him. I think he's not going to have it quite all his own way this coming season. I think there's a few rule changes. There's some strong riders on some strong bikes, and a couple more Ducatis into the mix as well. So he'll do well to retain it this year.
It's good to see the Supersport series being refreshed, but, you know, because it just died. I mean, there was just a few, you know, it was R6 Cup almost, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you wanted the bike to win consistently, you had to be on an R6. And now, I think is it 750 triples in from Triumph?
Yeah, the Triumph 750 triple,
The Dukes and stuff. And yeah, it's good.
Well, Luke Stapleford on that Triumph will be quick.
He will.
What he can do on a Triumph.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing Supersport this year. That's going to be fun. And so's BSB as well. I think I reckon it could be the most open championship in a few years.
Yeah.
Especially the sad loss of Birdie. You've gone head to head with Birdie a few times over the years. What are your abiding memories of Paul?
Just a real sort of passionate guy about motorsport, full stop. In particular, his bike racing, and you know, real like northern character as well. You know, he always called it his little team from up north. You know, but I mean, he put a hell of a lot of his own money in the job, and it's just a passion he had. And in our game, there's a hell of a lot who think they could just come in and just sort of buy into it, but as soon as the money starts, you know, getting a little bit out of hand, because you've got to have a big budget to do what Paul did, and to run at that level, it's not just a matter of thinking, right, I've got this, we've got these bikes, got that, get the top rider on it. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have that team. It's got to be that like sort of family atmosphere almost, and Paul did that, you know. So that's why he was successful.
I think it was Sean Muir that coined the phrase, how do you make a small fortune from racing? You start with a large one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not an easy sport to come into. You know that. You spent many years
absolutely.
in the sport.
I mean, I wouldn't change anything, but I went right from when I started my own like bit of club racing and then into obviously the drag racing, which we've been into before, but all I wanted to do was racing. I wasn't bothered about anything else. Just racing. I wasn't bothered about, you know, you had to earn a bit of money to live, like a wage. You've got to have something to live on. But that wasn't the motive. That was not the motive. All I wanted to do was go racing.
And what a success you made of it. We spoke about it at great length in the last show we did last year.
Yeah.
But one thing we didn't cover off, because we sort of keep an eye on the time, and like you said before, we're like, hang on a minute, we're 2.5 hours in. Where did that go?
Yeah.
Because once you start with the stories, and once you start going back through, and you go, and as we've done with Charlie Williams, you go, and this leads to this, and this, and then we did this, and then we did that. And it's just a brilliant way to do it. And so if we could have a recap of the World Superbike years, because that was something we missed out on, but it's an integral part of your management time.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange how I got into that, because I just finished, when I brought Triumph back to racing in 2003. And we had in 2003 and 2004. And then when that contract finished, and there'd been a big change in management at Triumph or whatever, they didn't want to go racing again, because they were working on the 675 at the time. And we put quite a bit of input into that, actually, because I was looking forward to hopefully racing that. But anyway, that was sort of history. But I didn't actually have anything on the cards at the time. And we'd had some contact with the management of Carl's team in Petronas when they were setting it up. Murray, the CEO, and another guy came round to our place just having a look, to see, how things, were, in the workshop, etc., etc. I mean, obviously they had a massive budget, and they were just looking at, setting up. And so there was a little bit of contact there. And when we finished with the Triumph contract, he'd been on to me, Murray. He'd said, do you know anybody who might want to? I need a crew chief, basically, for the following season, the 2005 season. I said, nah. I said, keep my ears open, right? But I couldn't think of anybody really suitable, because all the ones who I would have, advised him on were already in jobs. And then as nothing was happening, as it came into, I think it was like January or something like that, I thought, there's nothing happening here at the moment. I thought, I'll give Murray a shout. I'll just say, you get fixed up with the crew chief. I said, because I'm not sort of doing anything at the moment. I've just finished this Triumph contract. And I said, I don't mind getting back onto that, because I knew the setup, what they had. They had all the data technician, they had the suspension, etc. So it wasn't like, I'd be trying to do everything. Yeah. they were already at a very high standard. So he said, yeah, come down, let's have a chat. So I get down there, and he said, we've just been having a chat down here. What do you think about running it as a team manager? So I said, all right. So he said, no, we haven't had a team manager. They haven't had a team manager for over a year. They got rid of the original team manager, and they'd run without a team manager for a year. So I said, I couldn't believe it. I would have thought maybe Petronas would have been saying who's running this,
Yeah, for the finance that was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of higher management, like almost like a big company, CEO, financial manager, pay all a lot, but no team manager. So I said, yeah, well, fine. So that's how it started. And I'm going to admit I thoroughly enjoyed that job. It was tough, but I was a proper team manager. I had the technical budget, and my job was a proper team manager, not running around doing other things, booking flights or hotels or anything like that. Just focused on the job. I had a budget, worked my budget out, looked at what we needed, looked after my team, and it was good. Yes, that's how it started. And first thing I did, I went in there, I wanted to have a look at what they had. And they were having the change engine builders as well at the time. It was originally a Swiss company called Suter. Eskil Suter was building the bikes, and they'd had lots of issues or whatever. And they, for whatever reason, decided to bring it into the UK. And that was Ricardo Engineering down at Shoreham. Yeah. So I look at the bikes, and chassis had like dents in, and there was a lot of scruffiness of the bikes, and I'm questioning the guys. And they said, we've been told, till they get the engines right, they're not spending anything else on chassis.
Wow.
So obviously, I've got a budget anyway. So I said, right, we're getting some new frames, new swinging arms, the electronics were way behind. They were using an old system which had been used on the Ducatis back in that era, but they couldn't control like engine braking and other areas. But they were actually looking at all different systems, but again, budget came into it. So that was another area which I started to look into, and we got all the bikes. I said I want all the chassis, all the bikes, absolutely immaculate. I said then we'll deal with the engines from there. So that perked the team up. There was a lot of it motivated everybody, and so that's how we started. And then it sort of went from there. I could go on and on and on about it, because then you start with the engines. But that's how I got into it, and went from there. A real professional team, good budget, good test program. Good years, very, very challenging, but really good years,
Challenging in what way?
Because one of the biggest problems was when they first worked on that design of engine, a 900 triple, that was against 754s.
Yeah.
Now, a 900 triple working well should really beat the 754s and be certainly competitive with the 1000 twins at the time, which were Ducatis. But by the time the project had started and got moving, when they did eventually come on track, the FIM had changed to 1004s. So they'd not even really got started, and they'd been hit with 1004s, and then you're playing massive catch up. And I do think if it had stayed 754s and we could have got a grip on the engine reliability, etc., and the other issues which we might come on to, they would have been competitive, but you no chance. So they're on the back foot all the time.
See, it was a huge undertaking, wasn't it? When you look back at it, for a brand new motorcycle from the ground up, to go racing at World Superbike level with Foggy as the figurehead, and all the money of Petronas and the colour and the pomp and circumstance that came with it, I don't think it can be underestimated just how big a challenge and just how big a project it was.
It was a fantastic project. I mean, the workshops, everything was to the highest standard. There won't be many places like that even now. I mean, probably, obviously, your major teams like Ducati and that in Grand Prix, that's a different level. But at the time, the workshops we had an engineering section. We could get all the trucks into the workshops. We had, like a proper, just simple things like the proper reception area with a girl on reception who dealt with that. We had, I had my office, the Malaysians had an office. I know it sounds a little bit over the top, but it wasn't, because everybody was working, as a team, and it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We had our own dyno in there, everything, fabrication area. Not absolutely first class.
Who did you have as riders? Steve Martin and...
When I came in, we had Steve Martin and Gary McCoy.
Gary McCoy, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the other
That
one.
was the riders I came into. I mean, Gary, well, they were both great, two totally different characters. Gary was, I mean, the bike did suffer from an engine braking issue. It just had too much, it's like flywheel effect, really. It was, as you shut off, the back end just almost instantly came round.
Okay.
And it was and then the electronics, they couldn't sort that out. So, I mean, Gary was just going in completely broadside, but losing so much speed, and the engine didn't have enough torque then to drive out. But Steve put a lot of work in. I mean, he was great to work with, Steve, one of the best riders I've ever worked with.
That's a high accolade, considering some of the riders that you've worked with. That puts him right up there.
It was great, especially in the second year, because we then had, that's when we had Craig Jones came on. But that's another little story. But went the second year and Steve re-signed, and he knew things weren't really going to get any better. And it was also the last year of the contract as well. But that's another thing I felt quite proud of, because Steve appreciated the team and the effort we was putting in for him, and the little details. You know, we might make the tank a little bit narrower for him to get in under the cockpit, or get a little bit, neater on the bike to help him get a bit of speed or whatever. We're doing all sorts of little things to give him the best we could. And sometimes he'd qualify it on the front row, but he couldn't race it, because if you got a bad start, or you got the start and then the others had just come past you, unless you're on perfect classic racing line, you'd no chance.
You're just making yourself as wide as possible.
Yeah. It's just
the inevitable.
Just come on the straight, everybody just went bang. It was horrible because that's when Biaggi was on the Aprilias as well.
Oh, right. So that's,
and they just come past you like you're going backwards.
It's similar now to Bautista on the Ducati, isn't it? It's a
little bit like that.
It's a small man on a very, very powerful motorcycle.
But I mean, the frustrating thing really was with that project was the engines, and I think that was the frustrating problem right from the word go with it. Because they fell out with Suter for whatever reason, and then went with Ricciardo. Now, in hindsight, I'd have probably enjoyed working more with Suter than Ricciardo, because Suter knows motorcycles.
He's a motorcycle engineer, yeah.
But like where Ricciardo are a top engineering company and development company, but not really motorcycles. So trying to get through to them what we wanted out of that engine, and I mean they had a separate budget, you see, because that was Petronas had basically told them to get 200 horsepower out of a 900 triple. So that's all they focused on, the 200 horsepower, nothing below, not the power curve, just that figure.
Just get to that figure.
That's the contract, the delivered rate, basically.
Isn't the essence of motorcycle racing how you get to that 200 horsepower?
Yeah, and I showed them that when I took a stock GSXR 1100, and we put it on the dyno and put that on. Okay, the FP1 was quicker at the top, but the torque spread and the power curve, that's what we want. That is what we want. Only we do a top end, and then we might get somewhere.
Did it have an issue with, do I remember, was there an issue with oil pressure or oil return or something like that?
Basically fluid retention.
Yeah, fluid retention generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it really got to be that, and I mean I think the lads who my team appreciated that because I was on the case with it all the time. I wouldn't let it drop. I mean, there's cases where we would have a brand new engine sent up in a flight case from Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Open the flight case and there'll be oil in the flight case. So it's already leaking before it's even in the bike. So it was like, on the phone, can you send us another engine up, please? Well, we've sent you one. Yeah, I know it's just arrived, but the flight case is full of oil. It's already leaking. Well, it wasn't leaking oil in the dyno. Well, it's leaking oil now. Send them the photographs. No. Send another one up. And all we could do, the only thing we could do was change the gearbox. The ratios in the gearbox, it had a cassette gearbox, and the clutch. We couldn't touch the other parts of the engine. We couldn't take covers off or anything. That was their job.
Wow.
Because they should basically, in theory, should work really well. It's like Ducati, the satellite team, get an engine from Ducati, or even, well, like I said, Birdie, when he was running in British Superbike, an engine comes in from Ducati, straight in the bike, and away we go.
Or for a refresh, send it back, no problem.
Yeah. But no, there's oil leaks. They had a dry clutch system on the bike, which then there's a seal in the cases, which obviously stops any engine oil coming through into the dry clutch. That was always leaking. There's lots of design faults, and you sort of look at that and you think, well, just looking at that, say the shaft, the clutch goes on, was really long, and it was basically there was flex. So it was flexing, letting the oil through the seal.
The leak to come through, the oil to come through the seal.
So, you know, There was little things like that what I was really adamant needed sorting. And then they made some different seals there. So like, I forget how it was, maybe like triple lipped or something like that. I know it's quite a costly seal. That sort of cured that. But then there's lots of little issues. We used to, many times we'd go out on the track and in the belly pan, there'd be all like a thick sort of like absorbent material we'd put in just in case there was a little bit of a leak. So that was a constant battle. The other thing being the design of the exhaust system, which was a beautiful piece of pipe work because the cylinder head was like reversed, so that the pipes came out normally where your carbs would be or your injectors. Because I think that was down to initial design of the road bike, as I know Carl wanted to keep it really slim, like a Ducati with the pipes all hidden and etc. So they obviously designed it that way, where the headers came under the seat basically, and into the silencers at the back, and it was beautiful. But Micron built it all, nice silencers all tucked in. But there was no major energy loss in the exhaust gases. So when they were getting to the silencers, you're talking, well, shorter than the length of that coffee table.
Yeah. So
everything's mad hot as it hits the silencers. So then you've got, I didn't actually have that problem because I'd gone to titanium silencers when I got there. But previous to me coming, they were having fires, like at Monza and places like that. The seat unit's on fire and stuff like that, But he couldn't really alter it, but because I don't know, I mean, I'd love to have been involved right from the start.
Yeah.
But it would have been a major operation to try and change that, because obviously you've got the engine people building the engine. And I mean, unless you say, right, we're finishing this project, build a new engine with a new...
Let's sit down and do this from the start.
Yeah. If we're going to beat the 1004s, we need a rethink.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time on that, and in the end, you've got your seat unit again, which was a beautiful structure. It was a carbon fibre with the seat rails, and it was part of the actual chassis, really. We were suffering a lot of chatter on the bike. Couldn't get rid of it. So we went on. It was at Loutsey Ring. I remember it clearly. I was out with Ken Summerfield from K-Tech. He popped out with us at the time, even though we were running Ohlins. That was as Ken was getting into he hadn't gone with Ohlins, with his own business fully at the time. And we were out there looking, and we were watching in certain corners where they were experiencing it, and you could see the seat unit flexing like hell, shaking. What's going on there? So we said, I bet that's what's causing it.
Yeah.
So when we got back, the seat was flexible, and it all started to click because of this heat in the silencer box at the back. It's basically delaminating slowly the carbon.
So it's becoming more and more flexible.
So we hastily just got some sheet metal and we pop riveted a load of strengthening bits in it. Sent them out cured.
Wow.
Just like that.
So something, when you look back, is so fairly simple.
Yeah, very simple. I think that's just a flaw in the design, with the exhaust system. But it's still, even if we'd cured all that, you've still got the problems there with the engine not making enough power and still depositing oil every now and again. We were changing engines sometimes in after warm up before the race.
Which that's the worst time to do it.
Crazy. The boys worked so hard, and I mean, like I said, when I came into the team, they were so demotivated. I mean, they were all happy because they were in a good environment working wise, and they were all on pretty decent salaries for that time of year, that year. But they were definitely demoralised, but you know, the amount of work they put in was just ridiculous, you know.
If you had that, if you wind the clock back, if you had that decision again and that question again, will you come and be team manager? Would you still take it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I loved it. It's a fabulous challenge because I had the budget to work with to try and improve things,
which is so important because you don't 100%. Often get that in a lot of teams where you know you can't spend this, we can't spend, we've got to keep that. But it wasn't an all costs project, but it was a comfortable. I was speaking to James Hayden last week, and he said even they paid him not to race for a year, because the bike wasn't ready. And he's like, well, okay, but he couldn't ride anything else. Tell me about bringing Craig on board, because I have a...
Well, what had actually happened at the end of 2005 then, Gary McCoy, I think he just went off to do other things, if I remember rightly. Or certainly, I can't remember the reason, but they didn't renew his contract anyway. But we renewed Steve's contract because he really was 100% behind the project as well. So they needed somebody else, and obviously then it's the last year. You could sense it's the last year. So not that any top rider would have probably come and rode the bike anyway, unless he maybe, I don't know, been out injured or whatever, and he couldn't get a seat anywhere else, and they'd have had to pay big money to get him. You know, we were just discussing a few things, and like Carl said, he said, there's no good like young British rider I'd like to put somebody like that on, you know. So hence Craig, and it was good, very good. It was good for Craig too. He learned all the circuits. He quite often he was battling with Josh Brooks at the back of the field, and Josh was on a privateer Kawasaki at the time. Yeah, you end up with them two having a bit of a ding dong right at the back of the field. Yeah, so. And he sort of brought Craig on. It sort of really matured Craig for him. Then when he went into Supersport after, didn't he?
Didn't he? Went to PTR and Park Algar. Did a brilliant job. With Brains last week, I know Brian how much love Brains had for Craig. As we all did. Such a great kid. I love to make sure that wherever the chance is, that we don't forget about him, and we talk about him on the podcast wherever we can, because it's important. It's important.
Well, going back to the Triumph when he first had me, he was totally green. I mean, he rode motorbikes, but he didn't know anything. You know, like say like this podcast now or interviews, he was so shy and it was just lovely to watch him develop, not only as a rider but as a person as well.
He was great. The last I saw of him was at the XL Bike Show. I forget what year it was, off the top of my head. And we were just sat in the corner talking. He's like, Dave, I've got to go. I've got to get my train. I remember seeing him run away across the concourse. And he'd had some big crashes in his time, hadn't he? That big one at Alton Park on the Junior Superstock. And he broke both his legs.
That's when we picked him up after that with the Triumph.
And then we've seen Donington Park and the Triumph win and everything else. It's so important that we talk about him, and especially with a smile, because he was one of the first riders when I first sort of started coming into the paddock a little bit more that I actually got to know. And that'll always be important to watch that.
Well, that era as well, because you had Cal Crutchlow, Sykes,
Leon
Jonesy, Camia, Johnny Ray and all them. They were like, you know, there was that
Mlav was in there. There was a few, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was one or two, and they all went on to do great things, you know. And Craig would have done the same, you know, no question.
Not a question at all. Because when you look back, and I look back at that fondly at sort of the late noughties, whatever they call them, when sort of Johnny went off to Worlds, Cal went off to World Supersport, and it was that golden era, wasn't it? And it just doesn't seem to, it's not there anymore.
No, I think it goes in swings and roundabouts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It'll come back. Things
have changed a lot with BSB, though, haven't they, with the regulations and things like that. So I kind of see BSB sometimes as difficult to come into, but it's also kind of difficult to leave as well. In terms of having to look at how Brad and Taz have had to adjust going to World Superbikes with the electronics and things. You need 2 seasons wherever you go. Rory at Moto2.
It's not easy.
You need 2 seasons everywhere.
I mean, going back to that with Tom Sykes, when I had Tom when I was running the Suzuki team I just come into that team in end of 07, but ready for the 08 season. Yeah. And we had Tom and Watanabe, and we had some good wild cards with him. And that's what, after that season, Yamaha picked him up.
And then all of a sudden he was world champion.
Yeah, I mean, he moved on from Yamaha. It was unfortunate for Tom, really, because they wouldn't let him take his English crew chief with him. Right. It was just with Yamaha, with the Italians. And Tom's, well, you know Tom, he's a real character, typical Yorkshireman. He's a funny guy. And Ben Spees was there. So it was all Ben Spees. And Tom was, just pushed back a bit, and probably not being strong enough character at the time neither to push himself. So he didn't. He got him on the world stage, and he obviously 100%. Was world champion at a later date, wasn't he?
Exactly. So interesting to see what he does this year.
Work with those guys,
It's so good that you look back on those times with the fondness as well. Yeah. And having the presence at the time to just sit there and go, this is so good. Yeah. Working with these individual riders, there's always going to be the odd difficult one thrown in because it's the nature of the sport. Yeah. But generally speaking, I think you've been in the riders that you've chosen to work with, you've picked the right ones. Yeah, over the years, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little blitz, but I wouldn't say anything, nothing really major. I mean, it's sometimes a rider will go through a bad season. I mean, we had that with Glenn Irwin. There's a lot of problems on his own side, which I'm sure he would admit. But it's just what happens. It's just what happens,
They're a rare old breed, aren't they?
Oh,
riders.
Certainly are. But I've been fortunate that, like I said, the ones I've worked with, I've enjoyed working with them all,
So carrying on with the World Superbike story, when was that then with Crescent?
Yeah, well, we finished the Petronas one ended, and it was a shame really, that one. Just like to touch on that, because we had the Ducatis lined up to carry on the following year. And they were working on sponsorship for it. And this is where I think sometimes, even though it was a great structure, what we had there, I think, I hope Carl don't mind me saying it, but I think it was being mainly run by the CEO and the financial guys.
Funny you say that, just as an interject, sorry. But I was with James Hayden last week, and James, at the point, a point he made was that when he went to ask Carl for help, Carl was kind of like, "It's not me. I'm just a figurehead. I don't make the decisions." Just to back up that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I sussed that straight away, and I mean, obviously they'd have been on good money as well. So it's so I think Carl, I can understand Carl maybe not wanting to put his own money in, because I mean he's risked his life all those years and achieved, and et cetera, but I think it's my view was that they could have run. I don't know fully, but I would think there'd have been a little bit left in the kitty where they could have run maybe for a season. Yeah. But those who were running it on the board of the they might not have been able to take the money what they might have been on. That's my own personal view.
So all the Petronas.
It's like we've had what was the deal? I think it was a big deal. I forget. I won't quote figures because it was a big deal at the time. Yes. And they'll have obviously been being paid accordingly to that deal. And to, this is where the passion then comes in. I think if somebody could have guided it, even if let's just try it for 1 year. If it doesn't work, we've got enough to run 1 year. Yeah. Let's just have a go. And I think it would have kept going then, because it would have picked the sponsor up.
Even if it was just one rider, one bike.
But if you're going to try and get a sponsor on the same terms as you've had with somebody as big as Petronas,
You're going to be disappointed, aren't you?
Very, very. Because that had an add-on to it that they was going to build the road bikes.
Yes.
I mean, that's another separate story. We weren't involved with that at all. But it was like a project for Petronas in Malaysia. You know.
Because you'd have to build, was it 100 or 150 for homologation, something like that?
I mean, at the time, I mean, it got fiddled around. I mean, they had 150 chassis and that, but they never had. They've started appearing here and there. I mean, they did get built eventually, but there were so many issues.
Yeah.
But obviously, the FIM had probably just let it run its course because they needed manufacturers in and to help the series, you know.
It was a couple of grid slots, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it was going through a bit of the doldrums at the time, wasn't it? World Superbike.
Yes. It wasn't its most exciting. So
I think it's a shame we couldn't have just run that other year because Carl had gone back to the Ducati family, and I'm sure something would have happened. But anyhow, it didn't. So it was on. What should we do next? Job again then. So jumping down the line, I had eventually did nearly 6 years with nearly 5 years with Crescent, building the BSB team up, which we had a lot of success. And then in 2011, which was, everybody knows that was one of the closest BSB championships with Tommy and John, we had Samsung sponsorship, which I was pretty pleased that I'd negotiated with Samsung and the people who were dealing with it, and I was really, we got that because we were struggling with sponsorship, and that came up. I worked really hard on that, and as I said to Paul at the time, because he said, "All right, well, I'll come down." I said, "No, just leave it, just leave it with me," and we sorted it, and we had a good deal, cracking sponsorship deal. There were no trouble at all. I'd always remember at the time, I said, "Well, we'll do it for such a price. We'll put the hospitality." I said, "No. We'll get, this is just a technical budget. Then if they want hospitality, that's extra."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we might lose it. Just leave it, because I knew we were there. You know, it was only a matter of just ticking a few things off. So we had a really good deal, and we had a cracking year there with Samsung, and they were no problem. They enjoyed it, and great championship.
Incredible.
But then towards the end of the year, starts, well, we could go World Superbike, get Samsung involved. We'll go World. Yeah, it sounds good, but no, this is Samsung Mobile UK. It's nothing to do with World, nothing to do with international. That's out in, is it Korea or wherever they are? Korea, isn't it? That's theirs. Oh yeah, we'll get it. Well, in the end, I mean, they got so pissed off with this. They just, and it was so, I mean, I'm not having to go at Paul because it was Paul's business. He wanted to go World Superbike. And so we lost the Samsung thing then, and they went to Honda.
Went to Honda, didn't they?
Because that was building up. We could have had more the following year and the year after, because it was a great promotion for them,
Well, they ended up winning the championship with Alex Lowe's, didn't they?
Yeah. But they didn't get, with Honda, they found it harder with Honda.
It's different with the factory team in that, especially Honda, they have their way.
Because we were a lot more flexible.
Yeah.
We could go down the factory and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we're going World Superbike. Right, okay. So then it was Yoshimura then who would supply all the engines, which great company, Yoshimura, lovely family, people, really, really, really nice. But I'm cutting a bit of a long story short now. Our engine was actually a better engine than what they had from the British. Yeah, we had a better performing engine. There's nothing wrong with theirs, but it wasn't quite as good as what we developed ourselves. And again, then what happens then? The deal is they send the engines, and they will send a technician and everything, but we can't touch it, just the engines and etc. So the Japanese way of working is, this is what's happening in MotoGP to a certain extent, is where I think the British and the European, if something's working, we'll try it. And you have the confidence to go and race it. Well, what they do, we need to do maybe 2 months testing, then we check wear, then we check this, and it's a slower way of operating, you know. And sometimes you get behind.
Sometimes you just got to go, fuck it, let's do it.
You've got to believe in what you're doing.
100%.
You know, you've got to believe in what you're doing. So, let's put it this way, we were not ready to go World Superbike racing. You know, the old setup wasn't ready, and there was a lot of bits of things behind the scenes where the Motor Grand Prix team had sort of finished.
Yeah.
So in one of the warehouses at Crescent, that was full of all that gear because it had all been moved. And we were all involved in shifting stuff, and we're going World Superbike. And that was so frustrating. So frustrating. I'm like, what am I doing here?
You kind of feel diluted a little bit to what you were doing.
Oh, massive, yeah. I'm like 2 o'clock in the morning. I wonder how many team managers will be pushing flight cases across from a Grand Prix team into a warehouse when we're supposed to be going World Superbike racing. You know, and there was a lot of that at the beginning, and everything was trying to be cutting corners on all sorts of stuff, you know. I mean, I didn't even think the bikes looked okay in a picture, but we had like the bikes done in vinyl, so they were just like saving on paintwork. We got somebody to do it. I mean, they wish they'd never took the job on, I think, in the end, because pressure, if you're crashing, you want more doing, more bodywork.
More you need.
Couldn't keep up with it. Driving up and down the motorway, picking that up.
And applying it. I've watched Tommy Hill apply the vinyls. It's like, good grief, there's an art to that.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
So there's all bits of stuff like that. And then obviously Hopper had that finger issue all the way through the season, in the season before. So he went back to America and he had some more work done on that. And then we ended up going to Phillip Island then for the start, 2-day test before, etc. And then he smashed his finger up. So he's out straight away. So then we got Brooksy in to cover. But the bikes were dog slow. I mean, dog slow. And everybody's on a right downer, you know. Even the Yoshimura lot were. We need more speed, you know. I was just annihilated. Just totally annihilated.
It's going to show up there as anywhere, isn't it? 'Cause it's all corner speed and then that front straight.
Fast, long left onto the straight.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was really tough year. Really tough year. You know, and it just went like that more or less throughout the year. Hopper came back eventually, and then he had another big off at Monza. Monza had a big off there, because his hips weren't good anyway.
No.
Smashed all that up.
There wasn't much of him that was good, bless him, by that point.
No, he was well battered. So Leon did a terrific season, and Frankie was guiding Leon, and he had a really good season. To say, you know, I don't think we were properly prepared for it personally. And I remember Yoshimura, one of the engines let go, and the guy was in tears. I took him to one side and I said, "You are Japanese, you are warrior," sort of thing to him. You know, I said, "No crying. You go back, make better." You know, I said, "It's happened. You know, you just go back. You know, we don't do that. Just keep fighting. You know."
You don't want anybody falling on the sword just because the engine's gone
exactly.
They don't do that.
They're great people. They really were. But they struggled, you know. And then it was just really, it was the hardest. I say that's one of the hardest seasons I've done that, and the least enjoyable from a working perspective.
Yeah, which is a massive shame, isn't it?
Couldn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
You know,
because you want, from your point of view, even the success might have been a top 10 or a top 5. You knew the package wasn't. It wasn't a winning package.
No.
But and I'm a big the ladies and gents that listen to the show and that watch the show, I'm a big believer in small wins.
Yeah.
And if your bike on its given day with a strong prevailing wind is the 8th placed bike out there and you get 8th, that's a win. That's where you need to be. And that's you celebrate that as a success. And if you get 7th or 6th, even better.
That's it. I mean, the only enjoyable thing of that year was the travelling, going to tracks I'd never been to, like Moscow Raceway and places like that.
There as well, yeah.
You know, that was experience, and but that all that side was good, you know, and fortunately I've always been able to, if there's like a gap between racing and testing, I can wind down. You know, I'm not one of them who's all frustrated. I'm still thinking about it, but I can still wind down with it. So that obviously helped, you know.
That's important. But does that kind of come from the sort of the TT side of things, where you have to be able to wind down and you can sort of condition yourself to that? Because if you don't, it will consume you and you'll end up burning yourself out, especially in this game.
I think. I mean, I did take it as 24/7. I mean, I've been sat when I've been away skiing, saying in winter, I've been sat outside a bar at the top of a mountain and taking phone calls regarding racing. So my phone was always on and I was always available. But even in the downtime, I could sort of handle it, if you get what I mean. It didn't bother me because I loved the job so much, but I could still wind down and still had a finger on the pulse with the job, if you get what I mean.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, a lot of that is a longevity to it, because you learn to enjoy the bits that you can and not stress over the ones. Yeah. It's controlling the uncontrollable, controlling the controllables. The rest of it's out of your concern. Yeah,
I mean, the thing going back to the Foggy Petronas job, I knew we couldn't win a race, but as long as we keep improving the bike, and the lap time comes down from a previous race at a certain circuit, that's satisfying, because you know you're doing your job right, the boys are doing the job right, the rider's doing his job right. But when you can't do anything and it's not going right full stop, and you can't make any improvements, or you can see you could make improvements but something's holding it back, whether it's budget or some other restriction, that's frustrating then.
You see, one of the other ones that I'm favourite of is distance, time to the race winner.
That's
something that maybe some of the listeners and viewers haven't maybe considered, but as another win, if you're getting within 10, 5, whatever seconds of the race winner,
absolutely,
that's marked progress.
Because you can say, we've had a 4th place, fantastic, or been on the podium. But you've got on that podium because either somebody been crashes, yet you could still be, 20 seconds behind the winner. But then in another meeting, you could be 8th and only, say, 4 seconds behind the winner.
And that's a better marker than anything.
Much better. Yeah. It's not on paper, it doesn't, but I mean, from the team's point of view and the direction you go in, it's a lot better, better way to do it.
It's the way for motivation, isn't it? We are making progress. This is where the progress is. And that's what keeps you pushing forward all the time.
Absolutely.
So was that when the Suzuki time finished? Was that the last foray into World Superbikes?
That was my last foray, because obviously I knew at some point Paul would come back to run the team.
Yes.
It was never talked, but it was obvious that was going to happen, because he'd finished with the Moto Grand Prix.
Of course.
It took like a year sabbatical sort of thing, and doing other things or whatever. So I mean, obviously, when they carried on in World Superbike the following year, we had a sponsor who'd been involved with us in BSB, a company called Fixie. Like an investment type sort of company, and they come on board. I mean, one of the directors there was dead keen, and he was a friend of the team, so that they came on board there, So yeah, and they were on board too. Well, they were actually on board the year I was there as well, Fixie. Yeah.
It went on to strength, but it took its time, didn't it, to get?
Yeah, well, I mean, they I think they got a bit more budget, and they had Eugene Laverty then,
Yes.
and he got some podiums, but they're still struggling.
It was a tough series to be a part of, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially against the factory teams.
Yeah.
As well, before they became a factory team.
That's right.
It's a difficult place to be.
Because there was no real. They didn't really have everything was through like Yoshimura and,
Yes.
and what you did yourself. So yeah, they had a better year the following year, which they quite rightly should have done, you know. But yeah, but I enjoyed it, you know.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's something that you look back on fondly. I can see that.
Absolutely.
But that was the one thing that we didn't get to talk about this time last year was the World Superbike things. It was just fascinating of how that evolved and the riders that you evolved with, especially the Foggy Petronas project. You will never see the likes of that again.
No.
Ever. Nobody will put that
Something
investment
there from the Foggy Petronas. Piston and rod.
Piston and rod from there.
Yeah.
We keep that on the side. I just wonder it's intact.
This is, yeah. Yeah, it is. The bearing looks a bit knackered. What's in it?
Yeah, don't look inside it. That's the thing. One of the other reasons for coming out to see you, as well as it's been a year, and it's always lovely to come out and see you, so thank you, Jack, much appreciated, is the TT side of things.
Yep.
The road racing generally just fascinates me. And having the chat with Ian Simpson earlier this year, who was a great rider for you and Steve for V&M, and super successful. Just talk me through the TT years, because I think there's so much success and so much passion that you had for it and still do have for it.
I do, yeah. I mean, I think TT comes from years ago when I first riding on street bikes, because, you know, you get involved on motorbikes and it's like, oh, TT. I mean, we were only 40 miles down to the ferry.
Yeah.
So that was it. Every year off to the TT, being riding around there like lunatics with your mates, you know. And so obviously, I think even myself, if I'd have carried on when I was doing a little bit of club racing, if I'd have carried on that side, I'd 100% gone to the TT, because I used to just love riding fast on.
Well, you cut your teeth on the roads, didn't you? That's it, yeah.
I just loved it. I mean, obviously not as much traffic back then, but yeah, and I mean, obviously, you know, when we started to get involved then with the business, we were fortunate in one respect. We had Dave Leach, who lived over the other side of the hill from us, and Leachy came over. He had an FZR 600 at the time, and they were the new 600 on the block back in what was it? Would that be 89ish? I think. Great 89.
89, it would have come to you.
And we'd done some work on a Mark Forsyth's FZR 600 for I think it was PB performance bike mag at the time, and I think Leach had seen that or something. But anyway, he came over. Could we do anything with his bike? It was only like about 3 weeks before the TT, so we couldn't really do anything other than set it up for him. And he had a decent result on it with a more or less standard engine. So it sort of went from there then, and we got involved with him doing his bikes, and little 400 Yam come out. We won that with TT with him on that with a lap record, and and it sort of grew from there. And you know, when we started our own professional team, when V&M actually had its own team, was 94ish, if I remember rightly. Was it 94? Yeah.
Ian Duffus?
No,
or was it 93 with Moody?
It'd be we'd done with the little 400s with the 400 Yam. We'd done just out of the back of the van job.
Okay.
We used to go with our own 400s. Coming back to me now in 90, 91, 92 era, because Foggy rode our 400 Yam there.
Of course.
Leachy was on our 400 again, and Jim was also on it. And in fact, he still holds the actual lap record on one of our engines, Jim. But yeah, and then 94 come when we started V&M itself, and we went from there then, and it was just TT every year. 94 we're going to have Mark Farmer on the bike at the TT. We'd done the Northwest with him, lovely guy, and then unfortunately He lost his life on the Britain. And I can remember that quite clearly with that because, again, you know, I don't want to talk bad about anything, but every time the Britain came in, there was oil all over it. Oil all over the bike. And Mark used to say, he said, just, I'm out on the Britain now, so just have the Yamaha there just in case there's a problem again. And yeah, he then, I want to say, fortunately lost his life on it. I think it was Thursday afternoon practice, I think, if I remember rightly. Black Dub there. So yeah, another Irish rider stuck Ian King on it then just for the race, just to be you know, we were there, so stuck somebody on it. And then we went from there basically. Then 95, Honda chased us down so hard we ended up going with Honda. I didn't want to go with Honda. I wanted to stay with Yamaha, but they were dilly-dallying around, and I think I touched on it in the last interview we did. They were dilly-dallying around with what they could give us, what, you know, I wanted a superbike just to play around with and just enter when we fancied it. So they were, but Honda was chasing us down, so we went with Honda. And yeah, that's when Duffus won the TT. And I had Joey on the bike as well. Joey was fourth, 600 Honda.
I don't have the opportunity too often because he was his own man in a lot of ways, and obviously he rode for the factory Honda as well.
Yeah.
But what was it like to work with? This is the first time I've ever asked this question. What was it like to work with Joey?
Not a problem. It came about because I had Duffus was obviously riding short circuits for us along with Mike Edwards at the time.
Yeah.
And well, we knew Duffus would be okay at the TT, so I didn't get another teammate in. And Joey had always been with John Harris motorcycles on the 600 Honda, and you know, I went about it diplomatically. I had a word with David Woods, who was his manager at the time, and I said, "Do you think Joey would be interested in riding one of our bikes?" I said, "But I don't want to cause any problem with John, because he's always rode John's bikes." He said, "Well, leave it with me." So they come back. He said, "Joey, he'd love to. John's all right about it." So that's when we had the Duckham's Hondas, the blue and yellow ones. So yeah, I said, "Well, all this to do," I said, "He'll need to just get a set of leathers, obviously, to match up." So I sent him all the designs and what have you. But I thought, we got to the Northwest, and I thought, I'm not going to push him because I'm not worked with Joey. Obviously, you just go like, you know, they don't nod when you see each other, but never worked with him. Even though I had a few drinks in his pub. We get to the Northwest, and he was on the. He said, "I'm going to take the little one out first on the Laurie McEnemy little 125." He's got his all green and like dirty white Cushitanis on.
I can picture those.
So he goes off on that. So he said, "Have the other bike ready?" So I said, "Yeah, so the other bike ready." So I expect him just to jump on it. Took the leathers off, put brand new V&M leathers on. And I'm like, wow. You know, I weren't going to bother. I mean, as long as he had them on in the race and stuff.
Yeah.
Changed doing that pit lane. And he's off like, you know, so yeah, that's how it started. And there were no problems. Went to the TT with him, and he'd be out on it all, you know, every practice session he went out on it, and no issues with him, and his men would have tea ready for him in the awning, and they'd all have a chat after. And he said, "I think I just need a slightly softer rear spring." So I said, "Well, we normally keep it basically like the short circuit, the super sport bike, and just change the damping a little bit, just to absorb the bumps." But I said, "Well, if that's what you want," so we wouldn't normally, but you know, if that's what you want. Anyway, cut a long story short, when well, before then actually, he went out behind Duffus, and he stayed behind Duffus for a lap. He'd done a lap behind Duffus before he made this decision, and he said he really enjoyed it. He said because Duffus was like short circuiting little bits, but then on the real fast bits, Joey would like pull him in again. So he said it was quite good to see that. You know, I were like a short circuit rider, regular short circuit rider was riding it. Anyway, in the race, he went with that spring, and he ended up fourth. We were third, and then we just got put down to fourth. I think with Colin Gable at the time, late Colin Gable, he just pipped us to fourth. And he said after, what I didn't admire him, that he said, "You were right." He said, "I should have stayed with that harder spring." He said, "We're just like bottoming out in certain sections." So yeah, I mean, it's great. You know, when you get that sort of response from a rider, you know, it wasn't like just, "All right, thank you, gone," you know.
The response and the respect is what it's all about.
And then what was really nice was, what would it be? Good few years later, I was in his pub at the Northwest, and he has a display cabinet in the back, and on the mannequin it was the V&M leathers. It was dressed in the V&M leathers, the Duckham's leathers.
See, that's a beautiful nod, isn't it? That's,
What a lovely feeling. Wow, that's brilliant, you know.
For the amount of people that see it, and for the short time that he was with you.
Yeah.
What a great nod from a great man.
And then at the Ulster, see, they were on road racing, he was riding so many different bikes at the Ulster, and it was a hot day for once, and he was absolutely knackered. And he said, "I don't know whether I can ride the 600. He said, "What a super bike." He said, "Would you mind if I didn't?" I said, "I'll see how I get on." I said, "No, it's entirely up to you." I said, "No worries." I said, "You know yourself, you know." And I know he wants to ride it if he can, but he must have been shattered. He looked shattered, and he still rode it. It was all right. I forget what result we got, but it was a decent result, you know.
So what a wonderful legacy as well.
That's great.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But also with the successes that you had over there with Simo and with Moody and Duffers and Spike Edwards at Macau, and it was all there. It was all down to you and Steve and the team and the riders that you had. It was a real golden period.
Yeah, I think what we had was we had a close knit team, and you know, I was sort of directing it. Steve was working harder and harder on different engine, you know, upgrades or whatever. But it was a team around us as well. We all wanted the same thing. And that's what made it. I mean, I even had guys in the team who'd never been involved with racing, but they followed our sort of direction and passion, and that makes hell of a difference, you know.
It does.
You know, they're prepared to put ridiculous hours in if they need to, you know.
It's whatever it takes to get the job done.
So that, I mean, that's what it's really all about. And it was only funny enough the other day. There was something on the social media on X, as it's called now, and it showed Rob Mack's Cadbury's Boost team. And I replied to Rob and said, "What a team!" And they were the same. That then couple of years there, all them boys in Rob's team were the same, you know. There were no prima donnas or anything.
Eddie Marsh, Jimmy Smith,
all those guys,
all the guys,
yeah.
And they're all still around now.
Yeah,
well, Eddie Marsh
Barry Stanley was
Baz Stanley,
crew chief for me at Petronas with Steve Martin.
Of course, he'd worked there as well, hadn't he?
Yeah, super guy.
And he was
still in the paddock with. He was
with Jason at McCann's the last few years. I don't know where he's. I'm sure
he never changes, Barry.
No, he does.
Never changes, Barry Stanley. He could still probably get in his leathers from when he was racing 125s.
Little racing snake, isn't it? What a great fella.
Great guy. Great fabricator. Put so much hours in when we were at Petronas, you know.
One thing that I think a lot of the fans and the listeners and the viewers don't realise is just how much talent and knowledge and experience still sits in that British Superbike paddock.
That's right, yeah.
And it's kind of the same faces that have been there the last 20, 25 years, because they are the best at what they do. Yeah. Your Spanners, your Barry Stanleys, your Matt Llewellyn moving in from rider to... There's so many across the board. Stewie at Worlds, PJ, you can list them all. I think you get a lot, even if you look at Motor Grand Prix, there's a lot of sort of older generation crew chiefs still there. I think there's a lot more maybe younger talent coming through, maybe on electronics and stuff. Yeah. Because they're all like, that's the, well, I don't know whether it's the future, but it's the way it's all going, isn't it? So, you know, they're going to universities and they're learning all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah, well, maybe a lot of the really old school crew chiefs, they're not at that sort of level. So then you have that guy in there, and the guy who's been around a few years, he can direct it how he wants it to go,
Sure.
and he tells the electronics guy what he needs, and they work together. You know,
Because some of the fundamentals haven't changed and never will change because it's still a racing motorcycle. Yeah. But you just bring in those extra things that, like, there's so much more reliant on electronics these days. But you still have to change your spring rates. You still need what springs you have. You still need your damping and your compressor.
Etc.
You still need all of that.
Angles, offsets, all that.
Rake and all that. Everything's still multiple things that you can change.
Because sometimes, you know, you get yourself in a knot. You know, I just say, come on, boys, look, let's just get back to basics. Let's get back to basics. Maybe even put a base setting in and then start again, because you can get lost, you know, there's no question.
Frankie was saying that when I spoke to Frankie Carchady a couple of weeks ago. He said sometimes you've just got to walk away. It's almost like if you had a 1,000-piece jigsaw on the coffee table, you can't find that piece. Yeah. But you go off and you have a coffee and you come back and you go, well, it was there all the time.
That's it, yeah.
It's all there. Yeah. It's just finding it.
Yeah. But no, it's right. You just need that break. And like I say, I said earlier, where even though you're shutting off, you're not shutting off. You're just relaxing something, and something's ticking over. Then you're
it's just seeing the woods for the trees, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a fascinating one, and this is what I love about doing the podcast, is finding that out about the people. The racing's great, but it's the people that make it. Tell me about '97 with Simo and Moody on the. You had the RC45s that year.
No, that was '97. Would be Rutter.
Oh, was it?
Rutter and.
Was it 98. 97, Simo got the lap record on the Supersport, didn't he? And then 98, you got the RC45s.
Yeah, it was 97. I was with Simo and Rutter on the big bike. Simo was riding British Championship.
Yes.
And TT for us. And Michael was riding British Championship on Superbike and the roads.
I was a year out.
Yeah.
I was a year out on that one because it was the fascinating conversation because...
I think that was Simo's first win at the TT on our Supersport bike.
Yes, it was. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. We had factory engines that year for Michael.
Right.
In our RC45.
Yes.
Because that's when he was third in the World Superbike.
Of course.
The wild card, which I think he still remembers quite well, that. And then the following year was the 50th year anniversary for Honda.
That was it.
And we'd done a hell of a lot of work. I'd got all the HRC drawings of the chassis, made all jigs, all the frames were absolutely bang on. Massive amount of work. And then in '98 then, unfortunately, it was a little bit to do with Michael, because he got a bit sucked in with this factory. And the only factory is when HRC bring a full factory RVF. Okay, we had a factory engine, but when you're talking full factory, it's when they bring
the RVF
with the Japanese technician, etc. And so what we'd done, we got the bikes as close to, well, in fact, what was he called? Is it Nakamoto, Stan?
Yes.
He used to be the F1 guy as well. He went to F1. He was with Superbike.
Shuhei Nakamoto.
Yeah, it was Nakamoto. He saw our bikes at Donington, and he said, "Oh, factory, very beautiful." He was over the moon with them. We had factory suspension on the shore suspension, and basically re-engineered, copied everything possible and manufactured, everything made. So the bikes were beautiful. Biggest problem was we had Michelin tyres. And I wanted to run Dunlops. Michael wanted to run Dunlops, but Honda wanted to run Michelin's TT. They always run. Well, TT, there won't be any problem.
No.
Short circuits held us back. And obviously, he started having a few issues at short circuits because it was down to tyres. And then it started, I think there's a bit going on behind the scenes because we took on ex-World Superbike mechanic, who, to be honest, I would have ready for sacking him anyway, because he just never turned up. He just turned up when he wanted to turn up, and but it got a bit brainwashed. Anyway, cut a bit of a long story short, they decided that they wanted to put Roger Harvey in to run the team. We had all the workshop, we've done all the workshops, everything, and whether right or wrong, me and Steve, what? So what's that? Well, yeah, just to keep things, you know, all no problem apart from what I've just said to you. Now, well, that's right. So we went away. We're gobsmacked. So we just told him to stick it, just like that. Said, right, stick it. You could carry on with our workshops. We won't kick you out. Just pay the rent on it and everything. Yeah, that's what we did. So obviously they went off and won all the TTs because they had all the best riders, because we made sure of that from the year before, which I was dead chuffed with. And then Michael came back to the British scene, and he got on Dunlops then. Finally put him on Dunlops, so TT's gone. He's there, he's on the podium, regular, everything. Bike, great. And at Donington, you could run them with an oil cooler or without the oil cooler. When you took the oil cooler off, you had to blank something. I forget how it went now. Blank something off anyway, so it still had this circulation. And this young lad, local lad actually, who's come on board, no experience with me, of racing, but he'd learned everything through us. This mechanic had taken it off, and the lad had said, "That's not right, you need to do this, do that." Tell me what to do. Rutter goes out, bike sees solid going into Redgate. Factory engine, they don't do that. So, end of story then, they got flicked him.
Rightly so.
But this could have been sorted out at the beginning. Okay, probably in hindsight, because we felt insulted after what we'd done and all the success we'd had with Honda from 95, and they begged us to go with them. We felt a bit insulted, and we thought we don't need that. But it could have probably been sorted a bit different. But anyway, so that was it then, you know. So then the end of that year, we had, unfortunately, the dyno fire in the workshops. So that leads us on then to 99. You know, I was at the Intermot show in Germany when they had the fire and a customer engine. I think I touched on it on the last pod you did with me, but a customer engine was running bad. They got it running right, and the clutch was slipping. So they put a clutch in it, and then everything was, you know, it's working as it should do, but then dropped everything in the bottom end and set the whole place on fire. Fortunately, it was very fortunate, we had the workshop what Honda was in. Well, they were coming out anyway at the end of that year, so I did have somewhere to go, but it was still a major operation, you
100%.
know. So that brings us on to 99 when, what do we do? You know, with no budget or anything, but the TT was always there. We could always sort of figure out something for the TT, which is, you know, that's what we did with the R1, you know, and the rest is history, as they say.
Just looking at the pictures up on the side there. Yeah.
We sort of put things right, you know, we showed on what we could really do again.
How much satisfaction did you get out of that?
Massive. Still get satisfaction to this day.
Good.
Because, I mean, you know, they tried everything then, Honda. I mean, they did bring like factory stuff over at the time for Joey and that. We just did what we did best. We built a fast engine and a bike what was stable. Even still had standard front forks in off the R1. Didn't even have a set of Superbike forks in.
If it worked, it worked.
Yeah.
It's built for the road.
Yeah, that's it. And like I say, it's superb, you know what I mean? And the good people at Honda were, you know, really happy for us as well, you know.
See, that's important as well, especially there. Yeah. There has to be respect right across.
You know.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, But sometimes, you know, it's like I say, going back to that, maybe we could have done something a little bit different. But I think at the time, Honda, they were going through, certainly the year after, and certainly from then on, things changed at Honda because there was a lot of people like who just make decisions. They just say, you can have that, you can have this bike, that bike, we'll sort that out. But there were no like contracts or anything. It was all done like on a matey sort of basis. But then stuff like that can sometimes go a bit wrong. If somebody a bit higher up, hey, what you do? What you spending that? Oh, we can't do that now. We've got to do this, and you know, it's. If
you've got nothing signed, you've got no comeback, have you?
No, that's it.
And then you have to deal with the fallout from it, and then, okay, what's plan B?
So, but yeah, I mean, it's all experience, isn't it? You know.
It is. I mean, one of the stories that I asked Simo when we were there, he regaled a story of yourself and Steve on the Harley. You'd been out the night before, and I can't remember which pub it was. You basically turn up in the paddock where you could ride straight in. You've got the little tin pot helmets on, cigar, make way, V&M coming through, make way. It just fired you straight into the back of the truck. Go and sleep it off.
He's exaggerated.
I thought he might be, but I thought I'd And what are your best memories of working with Jim and Simo? Because what a pair of characters.
Well, we were working with the Scottish lads.
And Duffus as well, the old Scottish Armada.
We did a lot of work with them because, again, it was from our engine building with like Leachy, and we did a bit with Mick Grant when he had this. Again, we always used to get these things where other people couldn't sort of get going right. Like bloody teacups, he used to call them, 600 teacup, horrible thing. We're doing those bikes for them, and we got, you got one engine done. So I forget who we did first. Maybe Moody's. I think we might have done Moody's. So Moody's got off then straight away winning. So then Simo comes, then he wants one, and then they all start coming. Duffus, Howard Selby, loads of them. And they're great, there were no problem with them at all. There are a few dodgy looking crankcases used to arrive, but we'll say no more about that. Because there's a lot of that going on in them days, especially with racing.
Racing's racing.
Because they clamped down a lot on all that, haven't they now? But, But it's just built from there, The thing what we did with me and Steve with V&M, we didn't really come in from a low level. We came straight in at British Championship level.
Yeah.
With
countless championships and race wins.
Yeah.
It was all there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The business was first, the team came after. You'd already made your reputation before the team started.
Yeah, that's it. But it was always racing with us, it's a business because you've got to run, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to tick over and what have you, but it was never really about trying to make a fortune. It was we wanted our customers winning. If we didn't win, our customers were winning, And it used to bag me off a bit sometimes because we always did. The only thing different between our bikes and a customer bike was that we might strip ours down, say, on a more regular basis because you're looking for little things and touching and tickling, and maybe if you're gaining horsepower, like chuff to hell. But that was the only difference. You probably more tinkering.
Yeah.
But they had the same engine. Everything was the same spec. But because it's your own, you're tinkering with it more. And we did them all identical. You get the odd one who obviously couldn't ride the thing, and then they become playing, it's not the same, I've changed this, I've changed that, and not realising usually it's his mate next door who hasn't had an engine done by him, he's just trying to find out what's in the engine of his mates, So when they bring them back, and they'd all been messed around with.
I was going to say, that was one that the question, do you ever open an engine and go, what have you done?
Yeah, they come back like, some of them 10 horsepower down from what we sent out. All because somebody's been tinkering with cam timing or altering jetting or whatever, Crazy.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
We've done it.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's great because when we're dealing with the top runners, they know straight away, you know. And it's did quite a bit of stuff with one or two of the Irish lads as well. But yeah, it was good days.
Tell me about Macau, because I've never been, and that kind of fascinates me. So to go out there, you got the victory with DJ
yeah.
and with Spike Edwards before that.
Yeah, and I've won like the 600 race, Callum Ramsey. Been on podium with Bruce Anstey. Yeah.
What are your favourite memories of being out at Macau?
Going to Thailand after.
Is that the way? Getting out of there?
No. I mean, no, Macau's great.
Yeah.
I'd go back again tomorrow. It's fabulous. I mean, it's one of those, it's a bit like in the Middle East, it changes every year. It's just, if you go one year, wow, you go back the next year, it's different again, and it's just building and building. Is the place, you know. But it was really, because obviously Mike Trimmer used to run that originally when we were going, and he used to look after us all and everything, you know, it was proper. And he wanted it, yeah, it's a race, but he'd be, look, not anybody sticking their neck out, but you're all coming home, you're all got your 8 days in Thailand after to chill out, just, you know, take it easy. And in fact, if there was anybody who was riding reckless, they wouldn't get on the trip again. You know, he was pretty sharp like that. And
Willie.
yeah, I mean, the whole atmosphere of the place, Armco barrier all the way around, really dangerous place. You know, you don't want to be crashing.
No.
But yeah, you take a very limited amount of equipment out there. You know, you just got to be careful what you pack. You know, you're changing your own tyres and all that sort of thing. So it's just totally different. It was just a great way to end the season. In fact, we used to start the season with Daytona back then.
Yeah.
On the MCN tour. That was a Trimby one as well, because I did that for about 3 years with Dave Leach. That was a similar sort of thing. And of course, bike riders against car drivers. They can't wait, the bike riders. You know, they're going to have it. I remember one year with the karting, there's a kart, bike riders against the car lads. So they're all psyched up for it. They'd all been out practicing. They're going to kill them. But we don't want to race. We want to go off lap times.
Oh.
That spoiled it.
They were going to be straight into the tyre wall there. They're not messing about like that.
Yeah. But yeah, great times, you know. It's more of a, you know, it is a serious race and it's nice to win it, of course. But it was more just of an end of season thing. There was no pressure. You know, I mean, like the car boys, I think it's in a world touring cars and F3. I mean, all the top F1 drivers have won at Macau at some point.
It's a big draw for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big end of season for them. But for us, we're sort of a sideshow, really. We were out early in the morning, you know, on the you know, dirty street circuit and stuff. But yeah, it's just good, a big camaraderie. You know, it's like, you know, it was like sharing garages with others. Well, when you're racing in like the BSB, you tend to, you're in your own little like world, aren't you? You know, you don't, you know, you're not sharing tools and stuff. And,
no.
But over there, you were sharing everything, so it was great. It was like club racing in a way.
It is club racing back in the old days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. I always remember one year talking to Pete Jennings earlier on. We'll get there. I was with the 600s, and he was there, and because anything went over there, apart from the super sport class, which was FIM, and he's there with a 600 Honda with turbocharger on. Steve Burns, who was doing a lot with turbos at the time, you know, yeah, we worked with Steve quite a bit on some of his projects, and he's there he's like laughing his head off. So I said, you're not going to do anything in the big race with that 600 turbo. Oh, we're in super sport. I says FIM regulations. Oh, anything goes here, and he got moved. He got moved out.
A 600 turbo.
Yeah. I don't think he even finished the race on it.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No.
You can't imagine it being particularly reliable.
No. Well, it's things like that, you know, you had a real good laugh.
I think Daytona was a big one for you as well, wasn't it?
Daytona was good. I mean, we were pretty competitive there with Leachy and that. And it was just, the problem with Daytona was you didn't know where you were with tyres because it always seemed like I remember one year, I think it was the last year we went there, we qualified really well. So we were on for certainly a certain top 6, maybe even better, because you've got to be dead consistent. And we've got some good lap times. And then we got the tyre off the Dunlop technician. This is what you want now. And it was rock hard. As soon as he set off, within 2 laps, where is it? What's happening? Couldn't even put a lap time in. So I had to come in. But we had the other one on the other rim was the same.
Really?
Yeah. So he had to come in. We had to send him out again, rush back with that then to get another tyre on, then bring him in. Well, you're knackered.
It's all done then, isn't it?
No, you're knackered. And I mean, it's happened many times. I think it was Scott Russell one year where, was it against Foggy? It might have been against Foggy, one of them, but he shouldn't have won. He'd been passing on yellows or something. He shouldn't have won. And there was a little bit of favouritism to the Americans.
That's not a surprise.
No. And then there was a good year when Philip McCallum, he was having a good ride, and he was in 3rd place. And right at the end of the start and finish straight, just before he tipped into the infield, front tyre burst. Yeah, just blew apart. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So that's when the superbikes were on the bankings. You know, there was I get a lot of tyre issues and delamination and stuff.
Well, the pressures and the centrifugal forces push. They're not used to that.
But the Daytona always reminded me a little bit of the TT because the majority of the field were the back end of the field were more club racers.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't even anywhere near in the same league as our lads.
Just going for the experience.
Yeah. So what you actually had, the what's he called? Eddie Lawson. Doug
Chandler?
No. Doug Poland.
Doug Poland.
Tom Kipps and stuff like that. They were on factory Yamahas run by Vance and Hines. And then you got Scott Russell and that on the Muzzies. Yeah. So they were your top enders.
Proper factory bikes, factory riders. And
we were coming over basically on what was running in British series, you know. But you could run with them. They had a little bit more tackle for pit stops and stuff like that than what we had. Because we funny enough, going back to Joey, we'd borrowed a quick fill from when he was in Rothman's days. So like a big dump tank.
Yeah.
So you've got your aircraft type filler cap, drop it on. Well, Leachy got this off Joey. So when we come to use it, it's got a bloody leak on it. So I had to have a bucket with it in. And it's dripping out all the time. So it's like, obviously the seals must have dried out or something. So it's like buckets half full of fuel and in pit lane and, you know.
Imagine trying that these days.
Yeah.
All chits and giggles until someone giggles and chits. Especially on that front. When you look back over all the achievements that you've done, both with teams and with your own team and with Steve, which one stands out the most?
There is so many. I mean, the 99 TT one always pops up because of the issues we'd had with Honda the previous year, and then just to come back on a no budget team off our own back, and sort of make history. But there's just so many. There really is. I mean, you know, just all the super sport wins we had. I mean, another one where we kicked Honda's backside again was when Moody fell out with them, and I had the R60. We didn't have any budget, but he popped on them and won the championship again out of the back of a van. Those little things stand out because they were sort of like milestones, like where we'd had a few issues, like I said, you know, at the time with Honda. And then to sort of come back at them, you know, just like club racing really, out of a van, no big trucks, just out of a van. And they were satisfying. But so many. I mean, I've enjoyed all my management. You know, I mean, winning the British Championship with Leon Haslam. You know, it was cruelly taken away from us, or taken away from that challenge of being there when that brake problem, when there's no brakes there, and never got to the root of that. I mean, everything went back to Brembo.
Yeah, nothing ever came from that.
Nothing. It's, you know, everything seemed to be okay. So I don't know, but that was disappointing. But we corrected that the following year,
and then some. Not one DNF.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I've found is everything we've sort of done. I mean, it's like when we were with the Triumphs, we took on a brand new project, and we were winning straight away. I mean, TT straight away for a brand new project. When Honda, when we started with the Yamahas, the FZR 600s, we had them winning. If we weren't winning, somebody else was Steve Ives or Leachy over in the roads and stuff were winning. And we've always been, you know, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but we've always believed we could, whatever project we start, we can win. We can win, or we could be right there at the sharp end straight away. And that's what we've done, you know, I mean, so many times. And that's things like that are satisfying, because you know you're doing your job right. Probably on a note where I wasn't, well, what really caught me out was with the MV.
Okay.
And I did the own thing with the MV.
Yeah.
Because that engine had so much potential, and the quality of the components in the engine were fantastic. But there was it was mainly the air box and the air getting into the engine, which was the issue. Power wise, we couldn't get the power, because normally that was our secret.
Yeah.
We knew, because we knew what we were doing engine. We could always get power out of an engine. Couldn't get anything out of this thing, so we had to go to the TT with that, with Gary on board, Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he finished 8th, which not so bad, but on a bike with a lot of power down, but it wasn't. Then we started finding a reliability issue, which were valve springs,
which aren't the most expensive part of the engine, particularly, but they're vital.
Yeah. I mean, we got to the bottom of it, and it's fastest MV now ever around the Isle of Man. He's there behind you. Where is he? No, he's gone.
That's Jonesy, isn't it?
He's gone somewhere. He used to be there. He might be over there now.
Is that one over the? Oh yeah, over the Balaf.
But that was. That's the only one where I would sort of say was I was a bit bagged off with, because I came away from CT because he had valve spring issue initially in the first race. Then he finished 8th, I think, Gary, in the second one. But disappointing. I thought, well, there's something to build on. But there wasn't, because as we got more power, then these bloody valve springs started going.
So the more power and then the reliability.
Yeah.
But Hickey did a good job for you on it. He
did, yeah. Hickey. I think Hickey was 11th on it. It's the fastest MV ever around the Isle of Man. I think he just short of 127 lap.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But was it his first or second year? I can't remember.
He'd
not been going long, had he?
No. Well, he did a great job on it. But other than that, really, most things what we've been involved with have been good, you know. But even the MV was enjoyable, because we're still trying to solve it. Solve the issue with it, which we did do in the end. But
there's a little bit of shades of Foggy Petronas with that as well, the same sort of challenge.
Yeah, in a little bit of a way. But the frustrating thing with that was, I suppose it was a little bit like the Foggy Petronas, because I was trying to find out what it was, and I knew the MV team in World Supersport were having the same problems, and I had a big sit down with them at Donington. And went through everything, and then they'd show me what they'd done. So then I did the same thing to these valve springs, and it was all right. And
so Christian didn't ride in for them at that point? Giacomoto?
No, I don't think so.
Because he rode the MV, didn't he?
He might have been, yeah. He might have been.
Back in
Worlds.
His short spell in World Superbike with them.
Yeah. But superb little bike, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really were. Yeah. But no, I say that was just a bit of an experiment. I just wanted to do something there, you know, just mainly TT. And we got it fully sorted, and then Billy Redmayne was going to ride it.
Oh, of course.
That'd have been good because Billy was coming through. He'd been riding real well on his own stuff, or what this sponsor guy gave him. So that was a shame, but I can't complain. It was good fun. And
that was going to be with Dave Hopkinson, wasn't it?
Yeah,
our friend Dave was going to be working with him.
That's right.
He did a lot of work with him, but then that was the next project.
Yeah.
Before Scarborough came along.
That's right. Yeah, we were just ready. Everything were ready to go testing, and then fortunately had the accident at Scarborough.
Do you have a good relationship with Scarborough? Did you have much for it then?
I never wanted to go to Scarborough. I used to go up there on the road bike when I was, a lot younger. But the only time I raced at Scarborough would be with David Jeffries, because the Jeffries family had a big connection there. They'd all won Gold Cups, etc. They'd all had success up there, and he said, I'm not going to do anything silly. I just, well, of course he did. He won, but I mean, scary stuff like Jeffries jump, I think they call it.
It is, yeah. That's exactly what it is.
I know he upset. I think it was Ian Lott. No, it wasn't John McGuinness. He passed John McGuinness on that jump, and John wasn't happy. I mean, they were big mates, but he wasn't happy that time.
That's a fast place to do it.
But that was going back. It's like going back club race. I remember I took the dogs up there, and David had his big fifth wheel caravan thing, and his mum's there with pie and peas. I've got my dogs tied up there and beer on the go, and it's a good crack though, isn't it? I mean, I'd recommend anybody to go to Scarborough, because
no question,
especially if you like your biking and what have you, and you get over there, you've got the races, you get down on the prom, and your fish and chips and your ice cream and all the typical English stuff.
This is a proper knotted hanky job, isn't it?
Yeah, and if the weather's right, it's great, isn't it?
There's nowhere else to be, is there?
It's
a great place. Hopefully we'll get back there. We didn't make it last year, but hopefully we'll go back. We
used to do a bit with Dean Ashton, because we did some of Dean Ashton's bikes back in the day. He had a lot of success around Scarborough.
Another good rider.
Lad. But good place. Just hope it keeps going, because you don't want to lose places like that.
No, but it's part of the heritage, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking to Stavros the other day, and he was saying, he had a bit of success around there. Barry had success around there. Jano Saarinen raced it. There's so many. When you look at the board of winners that's on the start-finish.
Well, he used to be part of the British Championship.
Yeah, he did,
Yeah.
He can't even imagine that now.
No.
Especially even the 600s look a bit too quick round there.
Well, I always used to think, he got something like Barry Sheen going there, and he'd complain about the TT and go to a place like Scarborough.
But still went to Scarborough.
Yeah.
But then they rode in Matra and the old Brno and all the road circuits.
That's right.
And the Stalk, places like that.
Sachsenring. Not Sachsenring. Is it Salzburg Ring?
Salzburg Ring was a big one, wasn't it?
Big, dangerous, fast circuit. Spa was.
Well,
when you look at some of them old photographs, but everything changes, doesn't it?
It does.
For the better in some respects.
I agree. It's like talking to Grant.
Safety-wise, anyway.
Everything progresses year on year, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we've spoken about it so many times, is that the 1907 rider, the early days riders when they're on the goat tracks at the TT weren't trying any less hard than the lads in the 60s.
Nope.
Who weren't trying any less hard than DJ and Hickey today.
That's right.
But the roads have changed. It's like an Axminster carpet on Sulby now and going out from Ginger Hall, which all improves speed. Your 130 club now is
your
becoming,
bikes are that much quicker.
So much more horsepower and stability and everything that goes with it.
Well, I mean, now I remember when we first started going there, anybody who did a 100 mile an hour lap, that was great.
Yeah.
But now you're aiming at minimum 125 that's took over from or even slightly higher.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm on about a newcomer going. If you could do 125
as a newcomer,
that's pretty good.
It is, because then when you're moving on to that 130 now, I know sort of Pete and Dean and Michael are sort of 135, 136. But getting into that now 130 club, when you think that DJ did DJ do the first 125?
123 points, something, what it DJ, I think. No, 125, the lap record was 123.
Yeah, and he did 125, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then you think that's not all that, how things have progressed is...
It's crazy.
And we're going this year, we're going to go practice week Wednesday to the Saturday.
Yeah.
And...
It's great practice week.
It's incredible.
I like it.
It's incredible. Are you going across this year? Are you going to make it?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Last time I went in, I did I go 17. I went practice week for a week, and it was great. Weather was great, and I went again in 18, and that was shocking.
It was
shocking. I'd buy it. I never even went out on it. Just that bad the weather. They did get some practice. It came out not too bad in the evenings, but during the day and everything, it was horrible. You know, and you just don't want to be there then.
No. When you were running the teams, there was still morning practice and things, weren't they?
Yeah, it used to be good, that, getting up for that. But it was dangerous because that sun started coming up. There was quite a few fatalities and bad accidents because of that.
It's difficult, isn't it? And people don't realise that. I was talking to James Hillier about it, and a lot of the boys, if practice gets late in the afternoon, going through sort of Gorsley and out that way,
to Kirkmichael.
The flashing from the trees is so distracting because as the sun starts to drop. Yeah. But I can't imagine what it'd be like in the morning with just slightly a little bit of dew. You got some half asleep pigeons and rabbits and pheasants.
Yeah, if you're first off.
Street sweeper, first one off. Not for me.
No, I mean, a lot of the riders, I mean, they did go out, but even then I remember Jimmy Moody, he'd say, probably not go out, but have everything ready. I'll probably not go out. But then quite many often he'd end up going out, you know. Because
everybody else is. It's that extra, you can't replace bumming seaty time.
No, that's it. Foggy went out, when he was on OFSR 400, he went out. When he first came back to the TT, that'd be 93, weren't it? 93 was on the Yam against Izzy, weren't it? Was it against Izzy that
92?
Year? 92? Yeah, it might be 92.
92 on the Izzy on the Norton and
because Yamaha said, can you run your 400? Which I said, not a problem. Like, so we took it over and he went out on that as his first ride back at the TT. Leach held the lap record on it at 108 and he went round at 111 in early morning practice. Come back as how is it? Yeah, it's all right. So the front just moves a bit in some places, but I could just bring that back up on my knee. And that was it then. Never heard anything from him again. He just carried on with big bike.
Just to finish off, I speak to a lot of the riders that go to the TT and I talk about the Glen Crutchery Road. And from their perspective, as they go into no man's land, you've got the tap man, the most powerful man at the TT with the hand on the shoulder.
Yeah.
As a team manager and team owner, what's it like for you up on the Glen Road? What emotions are you going through?
Well, I mean, I think for anybody, you want to know, your team's done its job right and they've been over everything, made sure. The worst thing possible from a team point of view is mechanical issue not only just causing the rider to retire, but a possible accident. So that goes through your mind. And I mean, you have to believe in your boys and I always cast my eye over things anyway. I used to do, but then I'll leave them to it in pit lane. They don't want me there, Steve, in pit lane, like looking over them. We've done the rehearsal on that, that's up to them then. So, I'll keep my eye on it, maybe for the grandstand, but me and Steve used to just sit behind the Elwood Centre on the forms and just listen to it. And then, as I was on the last lap, you wanted to see them coming through signposts, and then, especially if you're on for a result, it's like, through signposts, and you start to relax a bit then. But it's, it's fantastic. Yeah, I love the buzz of the place, absolutely. It's a tremendous feeling, and obviously then, if you've got a result as well, it's superb. There's nothing like it. It's so satisfying. It's like you win at a short circuit. Yeah, it's great, but like when you've won the TT, you've been there that length of time, and put that sort of effort in and all the pressure which goes with it. In some ways, it's hard to explain because it can be quite relaxing, especially now with the modern machinery. Because if you've got a bike which you know's in the ballpark, like I'm sure like somebody like Icky goes back with the same bike, he's confident enough. If the roads are clear, he'll put a quick lap in straight away, and then he's just fine tuning it. I mean, back in the day when they had all the TZs and stuff, they were rebuilding engines, cranks, all sorts of serious amount of work going on behind the scenes all the time, because they had to make sure everything was, mileage properly and everything. But with the modern 4-strokes, they are easier to manage. You haven't got the pressure of tyres like you have on the short circuit, so you know what tyres you've got.
Yeah.
They don't wet in the wet anymore. There's none of that. There's no early morning practice. So yeah, the pressure's still there, but I find I'm more relaxed at the TT than I'm on a short circuit. Sounds crazy that, but it's wrong word to say easier, but if you've got the right rider and the right bike and you've done your job right, I think there's more pressure on the rider at the TT then.
Yeah, you've got all your ducks in a row. Everything's there. It's once that tap on the shoulder, it's down to the rider. That's it. There's nothing more you can do.
You just go for a brew in the Airwood Centre. That's all you can do.
Because you know it's going to be 20 minutes before you see him again.
It's no good being, what's he going through? You're all right.
Glen Helen, sector by sector by sector.
Yeah.
It becomes a bit intense. But it's like you've got 20 minutes now. Okay, we'll be back round. He's got 2 laps. You've got 40 minutes.
Yeah. You're listening to it on the radio, Yeah,
you know exactly what's going on.
Which is super special. I love that TT radio. Yeah. It's just, it's the accent and everything. It's
all of but it's a shame that they changed it. Last year was really difficult to listen to because the fella they brought in wasn't a TT man.
Yeah.
I can't remember, no disrespect or anything to him. It's what the TT brought in. Yeah. And I don't think it was right.
No. You need a Manx accent.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than being thrown to Dave Kinley.
Yeah.
Into the Parc Fermé.
Yeah.
And then up and down the paddock. But then when you had Roy Moore and people like that who were out at the different posts and who's the other Boydie.
Yeah.
It's all necessary. It's all.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, I love the YouTube side of things for the show, but the audio side. So for our audio listeners that are listening to this, we're sat in your lounge in Milner in Lancashire, but everybody listening has a completely different picture in their mind.
Yeah.
And the same with the TT.
Yeah.
When you used to listen, when I was working at the old place and you'd be listening to it, you're there, you're picturing Balaf, you're picturing them coming through Glen Helen and Ramsey Hairpin. Right. And it's the old saying, it's theatre of the mind.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's a way to describe it, because it's like a podcast. When that's on, I can be just, you could be in a workshop, you could be working, you could be driving, and just listening to Manx radio, and the atmosphere. You just thought when I say especially with the Manx accents as well, and it's, you just, you get goose pimples
it's that. Yeah. It's having the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and it's. I mean, the TV coverage has been next level, and it was fantastic last year. But for me, I love watching it on ITV4 of an evening when you know what's happened, and the Platers on there, and Matt Roberts, and the rest of the team that put it together. At Greenlight.
Cameron
Donald, fantastic addition.
I forget the name of the girl. The girl who they had this year wasn't too bad.
Grace Webb.
Yeah, she used to be on some of the car programmes.
Yeah, great. She does a bit for Triumph as well.
Yeah.
Very good.
She comes over good. I mean, when they had that, she called Jodie, the big Jodie Kidd. Shocking.
Yeah, not her fault, but she was thrust into something that she knew nothing about.
And it wasn't her seeing that at all.
And you have to have so much empathy being there and understand just what the whole event's about.
That's right.
Which, unless you've been and you've experienced it, and you know the sort of the mindset of the riders and the teams, and it's go well, mate. Catch you later.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different world.
No, absolutely.
I love it. I certainly don't hate or loathe it, but I love it and don't love it in equal measure.
Yeah.
it's a
And it's funny too,
very
because like
strange
I say
place.
with the riders, where, you know, instead of the British Championship or whatever, they're a little bit more, what would be a bit more corporate, how they're talking. TT, they don't give a shit, basically.
And that's exactly how it should be. It's just exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
Jack, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having us over to your beautiful home. We will do this again. We'll do this again either late, maybe the TT. We get some stories out, and we'll see you out and about, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll be knocking about. I'll get to a few of the meetings and what have you.
Get to Alton Park and get you there. We'll get you a brew.
Yeah.
But Jack,
No
thank
problem.
you so much. What an absolute pleasure.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Valentine.